I remember the exact moment I knew something was wrong. It wasn't a big fight. It wasn't a scream or a door slam. It was a silence. A long, empty silence on the phone that felt like it was eating the whole world. My name is Lucy, and it started like all good love stories start, by accident. I was in my last year of college, studying art history, which is a fancy way of saying I was learning to talk about pretty pictures. I was at this boring campus coffee shop, the one that plays jazz music too loud, so you feel like you should be solving a murder mystery instead of studying. I was stressed. My laptop was frozen, my coffee was cold, and I had a paper due in 3 hours. I may have been talking to myself. Okay, I was definitely talking to myself. I was saying things like, why do I do this to myself? I should have been a gardener. Plants don't have due dates. And then, from the table next to me, a voice said, plants definitely have due dates. It's called winter. I looked up, and there he was. His name was Ben. He had messy brown hair that looked like he just woke up, but in a cute way, not a scary way. He was wearing a band t-shirt for a band I'd never heard of, and he was smiling at me like he'd just found something funny in a library. I should have been embarrassed. But instead, I laughed. It was a real laugh, the kind that surprises you.
Fair point, I said.
But at least plants don't have professors who expect you to read a whole book about the symbolism of blue paint. He nodded, pretending to be very serious. Blue paint. Very symbolic. It usually means the artist was sad, or they ran out of red. And that was it. That was the moment. We talked for the rest of the afternoon. I forgot about my paper. He forgot about whatever he was supposed to be doing. We talked about everything and nothing. We talked about our favorite bad movies, our least favorite foods, and why pigeons look so suspicious all the time. By the end of that week, we were a thing. We were the kind of couple that made other people a little sick. You know the type. We finished each other's sentences. We had the same stupid sense of humor. He would send me pictures of funny-shaped clouds, and I would send him pictures of my cat looking judgmental. We were just easy. Ben was studying environmental science. He was one of those people who actually wanted to save the world. He talked about wind patterns and soil erosion the way other people talk about sports. I didn't understand half of it, but I loved watching his face light up when he explained it. He made me believe in things. He made me believe that love wasn't just in movies. It was real. It was in the way he held my hand when we walked, like he was afraid I might float away. It was in the way he remembered I liked my eggs scrambled, not fried. We made our plans. We talked about the future like it was a place we were driving to, a place we would go together. We talked about getting a small apartment with a balcony so I could have plants, even if they had due dates. We talked about getting a dog and naming it Potato. And then graduation came. And with it, a problem. Ben got an amazing job offer.
It was the kind of offer you don't say no to.
A research position studying climate change. It was his dream. The only problem? The job was in California. We lived in New York, California. 3,000 miles away. 3 hours behind. A whole other world. I remember the night he told me. We were sitting on the roof of his building, looking at the city lights. It was warm for spring. The air smelled like the hot dogs from the cart downstairs. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Lucy, I got the job." For a second, my heart jumped. I was so proud of him. I grabbed his arm.
Ben.
That's amazing. That's incredible. But he didn't smile. He just looked at me. And then I understood. The job was in California. The job was far away. I let go of his arm. The city lights suddenly seemed a million miles away, not just a few blocks. "It's in California," he said softly. It wasn't a question. "I know," I said. We sat in silence for a long time. The sounds of the city felt too loud. The happy shouts from the street felt like they were mocking us. "I don't have to take it," he said finally. "I can find something here. It's not the only job in the world." But I knew him. I knew this was his dream. I knew he had worked his whole college life for this. No, I said. The word came out before I could think about it. You have to take it. You can't say no to your dream. But what about us? He asked. His voice cracked a little. And this is where the promise was born. Sitting on a rooftop, with the smell of hot dogs in the air and our whole future hanging in the balance. We'll be fine, I said. I tried to sound brave. I tried to sound sure. It's just distance. It's just miles. It's not like we're breaking up. It's just a pause. A long-distance thing. He looked at me, searching my face for doubt. I didn't give him any. I smiled. I made him believe it. We'll call every day, he said, grabbing onto the idea like a lifeline. We'll video chat. It'll be like we're in the same room. Exactly, I said. And we'll visit. You'll come here for Christmas. I'll come there for the summer. We'll save our money. We'll make it work. We'll make it work, he repeated. He pulled me close. I promise, Lucy. This distance won't break us. Nothing will break us. I believed him. I believed him with my whole heart.
So, he left.
The first few weeks were actually okay. It was like a weird game. We had our routine. He would wake up in California and call me while I was having lunch in New York. I would stay up late so we could watch the same movie together over the phone. He would send me pictures of the Pacific Ocean, and I would send him pictures of the first leaf changing color in Central Park. We talked about everything. We talked about his new boss, who he said looked like a friendly walrus. We talked about my new job at a small gallery where my main duty was to make sure no one touched the paintings and to drink a lot of free coffee. We were keeping our promise. We were making it work. But slowly, like a slow leak in a tire, things started to change. It started with the time difference. It was only 3 hours, but it felt like a whole day. By the time he was finishing work, I was already thinking about dinner. By the time I was free to talk, he was getting ready for bed. Our calls got shorter. They got rushed. It's fine, I would tell myself. It's just a busy week. Then, the conversations changed. He would tell me about his new friends, people with names I couldn't remember.
Sarah, Mark, Jess.
He would tell me about their inside jokes, jokes I wasn't a part of. He would laugh about something that happened at a party, and I would feel a cold little knot form in my stomach. I wasn't there. I wasn't a part of his life anymore. I was just a voice on the phone. My life felt small. My world was my tiny apartment, my cat, and the gallery. His world was big and new and exciting. He was living his dream, and I was happy for him. I was. But I was also lonely. The phone calls became a chore. Not a bad chore like cleaning the bathroom, but a chore nonetheless. We would ask the same questions. How was your day?
Fine.
Yours? Good. Busy. Anything new? Not really. You? We were running out of things to say. We were living in two different worlds. How do you explain the color of a sunset to someone who isn't there? How do you describe the feeling of a cold wind to someone who is sitting in the sun? The distance wasn't just miles anymore. It was in our conversations. It was in the long pauses.
It was in the things we stopped saying.
I remember one night I had a really bad day. A painting at the gallery got a tiny scratch and my boss blamed me. It wasn't my fault, but I had to listen to a 20-minute lecture about attention to detail. I came home. My cat threw up on my favorite rug, and I just wanted to hear Ben's voice. I called him. It was late for him. He answered, his voice groggy. Hey, he mumbled. Everything okay? No, I said, and I started to cry. I told him about the painting. I told him about my boss. I told him about the rug. I told him I felt like a failure. There was a pause. A long one. Lucy, it's just a rug, he said. His voice was tired, not mean, but it was the wrong thing to say. It's not just the rug, I said. It's everything. I'm here all alone, and you're there, living your life. and I'm just stuck. Lucy, don't do this, he said.
Not now.
I have a big presentation tomorrow. I need to sleep. He needed to sleep. I needed my boyfriend. We were both asking for something the other couldn't give.
I'm sorry you whispered.
I'll let you go.
Okay.
We'll talk tomorrow. I love you. I love you too. We hung up. The words felt empty. They felt like something we said because we were supposed to, not because we felt them. That was the first crack. The first time the promise felt heavy. After that, things got worse. I started to pull away. Not on purpose. It was like a survival thing. It hurt too much to miss him. So, I tried to miss him less. I stopped waiting by the phone. I started going out with friends from work. I filled my days with noise, so I wouldn't have to think about the silence. He felt it. I know he did. He would ask, "Is everything okay? You seem distant." "I'm fine," I would say. "Just busy." I was lying. But telling the truth would have meant admitting that the promise was failing. And I wasn't ready to do that. Then one night, I went to party with my friend Chloe. It was a gallery opening full of people trying to look important. I was standing by myself, holding a drink I didn't want, when this guy started talking to me. His name was David. He was a photographer. He had a nice smile and an easy laugh. We talked for an hour. It was easy. It was fun. He made me laugh. For the first time in months, I didn't feel alone. I felt seen. Nothing happened. He walked me to my subway stop and said goodnight. But on the train ride home, I felt a wave of guilt so strong, I thought I might be sick. I hadn't done anything wrong, but I had enjoyed talking to someone else. I had enjoyed feeling like a person again, not just a voice on a phone. I got home and called Ben. I needed to hear his voice. I needed to feel connected to him. He answered. He sounded happy. "Hey, I was just thinking about you," he said. "Guess what?" "What?" I asked. "I'm coming home for a visit. Next weekend. I got a few days off. I can't wait to see you." My heart should have soared. It should have exploded with joy. But instead, it just sank. I felt panic. Not excitement. Panic. "Next weekend," I said. My voice sounded strange, even to me.
Yeah.
"Isn't that great? We can finally see each other. We can have a real date. I can't wait to just hold you." I should have said, "Me too." I should have been counting the seconds. But all I could think about was the party. All I could think about was how easy it was to talk to David. All I could think about was how much my life here in New York didn't include Ben anymore. That's great, Ben," I said. "I have to go. I'm really tired."
Oh, okay. Sure.
"Get some sleep. I love you, Lucy." "I love you too." I hung up and stared at the wall. I didn't feel love. I felt dread. The week leading up to his visit was the longest week of my life. I cleaned my apartment like a crazy person. I bought his favorite snacks. I tried to prepare myself. I tried to remember how to be his girlfriend in person, not just on the phone. I went to the airport to pick him up. I stood by the arrivals gate, watching people rush out with their suitcases and their happy reunions. I saw families hugging. I saw couples kissing. I felt like a fraud. And then I saw him. He walked through the gate, and he was just
Ben.
He was real. He was there. He had the same messy hair and the same smile. For a second, my heart softened. This was the man I loved. This was the man I made a promise to. He saw me and his whole face lit up. He ran towards me and wrapped his arms around me. He held me so tight, like he was afraid I might disappear. "Lucy," he whispered into my hair. "God, I missed you." I hugged him back, but my arms felt heavy. The hug felt wrong. It felt like hugging a stranger you used to know. We drove back to my apartment. The whole drive he talked. He talked about California. He talked about his work. He talked about his friends. He was so happy, so full of life. And I just nodded and smiled, feeling smaller and smaller. We got to my apartment. He looked around. He smiled at the pictures of us on the fridge. He said, "It's so good to be home." Home. He called my apartment home, but he didn't live here anymore. This wasn't his home. His home was 3,000 miles away. That night, we tried. We really tried. We ordered our favorite pizza. We tried to watch our favorite movie, but everything felt forced. The jokes didn't land. The silences were too long. He would reach for my hand, and I would pull away to get a drink. He would try to kiss me, and I would turn my head so his lips landed on my cheek. Finally, he sat up straight on the couch. He turned the TV off.
"Lucy," he said.
His voice was calm, but his eyes were scared. "What's going on?" "Nothing," I said, automatically. "I'm just tired." "Don't," he said. "Please don't do that. I flew 3,000 miles to see you. I'm right here. Look at me. Tell me what's wrong." I couldn't look at him. I looked at my hands. I looked at the floor. I looked anywhere but at him. "It's just hard," I whispered. "I know it's hard," he said, his voice gentle. "But we knew it would be. We promised we would make it work. We are making it work. I'm here now. We're together." "But you're not here." The words burst out of me. "You're here for a weekend, and then you leave again. And I'm here, alone, living my life, waiting for a phone call that makes me feel worse."
He looked stunned.
Like I had slapped him. "I thought the calls helped," he said quietly. "They don't," I said, crying now. "They make me miss you more. They make me realize how far apart we are. You have this whole new life, Ben. You have friends I don't know. You have inside jokes I'm not a part of. And I'm just here, stuck in the same place, doing the same things, waiting for you." "I'm waiting for you too," he said. "I'm waiting to see you. I'm saving money so we can be together. That's the plan, Lucy. That's the promise." "The promise," I repeated, the word tasting bitter. "The promise is just words, Ben. Words are easy. It's the living that's hard."
He was quiet for a long time.
He looked broken. I had never seen him look so broken. "So, what are you saying?" he asked. His voice was barely a whisper. I wanted to take it back. I wanted to run to him and hold him and say I was sorry. But I couldn't move. The truth was stuck in my throat and it was choking me. "I don't know what I'm saying." I lied. I don't know." He stood up. He walked to the window and looked out at the city. His back was to me. His shoulders were tense. "I met someone," I said. The words hung in the air like smoke. I couldn't believe I had said them. But I had. And I couldn't take them back. "I loved you," he said. "I really loved you. And I kept my promise. I called every day. I thought about you every minute. I was building a life for us. But you gave up. You let the distance win." "I didn't mean to," I whispered. "Maybe you didn't," he said. "But you did." He opened the door and walked out. He closed it softly behind him.
"No Islam."
Just a soft, final click. I stood there in my apartment, surrounded by his favorite snacks, the pizza getting cold on the table. I waited for him to come back. I waited for the door to open and for him to say it was all a mistake. But he didn't come back. I sank to the floor. And I cried. I cried for the loss of him. I cried for the promise I broke. I cried because I knew, in that moment, that I had made the biggest mistake of my life. The distance hadn't broken us. I had. The days after he left were a blur. I went to work. I came home. I stared at the wall. I didn't call him.
He didn't call me.
The silence was complete. It was the silence I had been afraid of, and now it was all I had. I thought about him constantly. I thought about the good times. I thought about the rooftop, the night we made the promise. I thought about how sure we were, how stupid we were. I thought about the guy from the party, David. He called me a few times. I didn't answer. The idea of talking to anyone felt impossible. Ben was right.
It wasn't about David.
David was just a symptom, a sign of the sickness in our relationship. The sickness was the distance. The sickness was the loneliness. The sickness was the slow forgetting of how to be together. Months passed.
The seasons changed.
The leaves fell, and the snow came, and then the snow melted, and the flowers started to bloom. Life went on. It has a cruel way of doing that. I started to heal.
Slowly.
The sharp pain of losing him became a dull ache. I stopped crying every day. I started going out with Chloe again. I even laughed sometimes. But there was always a part of me that was missing. A Ben-shaped hole in my heart. One day, about a year after he left, I got a letter. A real letter in the mail. Handwritten. I recognized the writing immediately. It was his. My hands shook as I opened it. I sat down on my couch, my heart pounding. I took a deep breath and started to read. Dear Lucy, I hope it's okay that I'm writing to you. I've wanted to call 100 times, but I never knew what to say. Writing feels easier. It gives me time to think. I'm writing this from a small town in Oregon. I left the job in California. It was a great job, but I realized I was running. I was running from the memory of us. I thought if I worked hard enough, I could forget you. But I couldn't. I can't. I think about that night a lot. I think about what I said. I was angry and hurt. I called you a quitter. But the truth is, I was scared too. I was scared that the distance was too much. I just didn't want to admit it. I wanted to be the strong one, the one who kept the promise. But I wasn't strong. I was just stubborn. You were right about one thing. Love needs more than words. It needs presence. And I wasn't present. I was there, but I wasn't there. I was so focused on my new life that I forgot to include you in it. I made you feel like a ghost. And I'm so sorry for that. I'm not writing this to ask for another chance. I don't know if we deserve that. I'm writing this to say, I'm sorry. For my part in breaking the promise. For not seeing how lonely you were. For not fighting harder when you were slipping away. I still love you, Lucy. I don't think I'll ever stop. I just wanted you to know that. I'm including my new address. I'm not asking you to write back. But if you ever want to, I'd love to hear from you. Take care of yourself.
Ben.
I read the letter 3 times. Tears were streaming down my face, but for the first time in a long time, they weren't sad tears. They were something else. Relief.
Hope. Pain.
All mixed together. He still loved me. He was sorry. He understood. I looked at the letter for a long time. I looked at his address. I looked at his handwriting. I could almost hear his voice in the words. I didn't know what to do. The wound was old, but it was still there. Could you really go back? Could you fix a promise that had been broken so completely? I put the letter down. I looked at my cat, who was sleeping on the sofa, looking as judgmental as ever. What do I do, Potato? I asked him. He just yawned. I thought about the rooftop. I thought about the smell of hot dogs. I thought about the promise. A promise broken by distance. But maybe, just maybe, a promise that could be rebuilt by something stronger. By truth. By forgiveness. By a letter written from the heart. I didn't know the answer. Not yet. But for the first time in a year, I felt something other than pain. I felt a tiny, fragile flicker of hope. And that, I think, is where all second chances begin.